Welcome back to our video series looking at Microsoft Outlook. In this particular video, we are going to be focusing on navigation in the Mail function of Microsoft Outlook. So I'm going to start by just going back to Outlook, looking for the icon on my taskbar. Because I already have Outlook open, I just have to click this once to maximize the window again. So we are going to start by looking at folders. Folders are a very important organizational tool in any of the computer programs that you're going to be using. That can be in Microsoft Outlook. You want to make sure your emails are properly organized. When you move on to looking at Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel, you're going to want to make sure that you have a good folder system on your computer for saving files. And any other program that you use, whenever there's any opportunity at all for you to save your work and save it to a specific location, you want to make sure that you've got a good organizational hierarchy going. In Outlook, particularly when we're talking about emailing in Outlook, there is a folder tree that you can use for organizing messages. So if you look over at the left side of the screen, here in the center is the folder tree. This is where all of your email folders will be organized. The folder tree is organized alphabetically, and you can also nest folders inside of each other. So the main folder is going to be your inbox, and then you can navigate and add folders inside of your inbox. You can add folders inside of folders inside of your inbox. If you look at my folder tree, I probably have, I'd say at least 100 folders. That's because I handle a lot of administrative tasks here at the Olmsted Center and the Statler Center. And because of that, I like to make sure that I have written records for many of the things that I'm accomplishing or working on. Also, because in past jobs, I've had experiences where as soon as I deleted an email message, I had a supervisor or coworker ask me for it. So I am very hesitant to delete items unless I absolutely know that no one's going to ask me to follow up on that. In addition, I also don't like to keep all of my emails in my main inbox because once I get more than probably 100 or 150 messages in my inbox, it starts to become difficult for me to locate particular messages because there are so many that I have to go through. So I try, I'm not always successful, but I try to keep all of the email messages in my inbox limited to conversations that are either still happening or items that I need to act on. So the idea is that what's in my inbox is either going to be a conversation that I'm still taking part in, or it's going to be an email about something that I haven't done yet. And keeping that in my inbox sort of keeps it in front of me and reminds me that that's not accomplished. Once a conversation is over, or once I have finished a task, I like to move that out of the inbox and into a folder. And so I wound up with so many folders because I've done things on so many different topics. To add folders to your email account is pretty easy. All you want to do is take your mouse, you're going to go over to the folder tree, you are going to right click on the location in which you want to put a folder. So in this case, I'm going to my inbox, I'm right clicking where it says inbox. And then when the new right click menu opens, there's going to be a list of options for what I could do here. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on New Folder. Here is what's called the Create New Folder dialog box. You're basically just asked for a few pieces of information. You need to have a name for the folder. You need to be able to tell Outlook what's going to be inside of the folder. And then you have to be specific about where you'd like the folder to be placed. So let's say that I'm going to call this new folder Distance Learning Spring 2018, and it's just going to be where I place any email conversations that I have about the spring 2018 distance learning class. So I'm going to name this Distance Learning Spring 2018. Because this is going to be a folder for email messages, I just want to make sure that it says folder contains mail and post items. And then here in the location tree, inbox is already selected. It can be a little bit difficult to see that because it's selected in like a dark gray color. But if I click on it once, I see now it's outlined in blue. Because inbox is where I want to put my folder, I'm going to leave that alone. And then I'm just going to click the OK button. Once I've clicked OK, I just want to make sure that my folder is actually in the inbox where I'd like it to be. So I'm going to scroll down in my inbox until I locate the D's. And there it is, Distance Learning Spring 2018. So if I select this once, I suddenly lose sight of all of the email messages that had been in my inbox, and that's okay. When you select the title of a folder, the only thing that you'll be able to see are email messages that have been moved to that folder. Because this is a new folder and I haven't placed anything inside of it yet, I don't have anything to see here. I'm going to go back to my inbox and I'm going to select that once. And here's the list of messages that I am more accustomed to seeing. You can also create a new folder from the ribbon. If you look up at the tabs on the upper ribbon, you want to select folder, and then there's a button here for new folder. And if you hover over that, you can also see that the keyboard shortcut for creating new folders is Control plus Shift plus E. So if you find yourself creating folders a lot, that might be one of the shortcuts that you want to memorize or you want to have down in writing somewhere that's handy for you. Usually though, I find it fastest just to look over at the folder tree, decide on a location, right click, and then choose new folder. Once you actually have a folder, you're really going to want to start to use that folder by moving messages over there. There are a couple of ways to move a message to a particular folder. One way to do that is that you can right-click on an email message. Then when the right-click menu comes up, you are going to look for Move, and then there will be a list of locations that you can move the email message to. At the top of that list is usually going to be the folder that you were most recently in. In my case, it does say Distance Learning Spring 2018 because I just looked at that folder. If you don't see the folder you want in this suggested list, you can choose Other Folder. And then you're going to get a location tree and you would find the folder that you want to move the message to and you would click OK. There is also a Move button on the ribbon. So if you look at the Home tab, then you look at the Move category. Here's the Move button. If I click this, again, it is going to open up a list of most recently accessed folders, and then there will be the Other folder option as well. Finally, and the method that I usually use most often if I am moving messages with a mouse, is you can simply drag an email message to the appropriate folder and then drop it there. So let's say I want to take this email message about my Zoom conference and move it to the Distance Learning 2018 folder. I'm going to left click once on the message to select it. I'm going to start to drag it. As I start to drag it, you'll see there's a no symbol, which is letting me know that if I let go here, my message wouldn't go anywhere. But when I get to the folder tree, that disappears, and instead I see my cursor with a little rectangle under it. So I'm going to start dragging down the folder tree looking for my distance learning folder. As you get to the bottom of the currently visible list, it'll start to go through the options a little bit more quickly. So here's Distance Learning Spring 2018. I'm going to let go. My message was moved, but I'm staying in the inbox for right now. So let's go make sure that that message got moved over. I'm going to click on the Distance Learning Spring 2018 folder. And now there is one email message in there. We looked at folders, how to create new folders, and how to move messages to folders. We're going to briefly talk about how just to navigate in your inbox or your message list, maybe if you're looking at emails that aren't in the inbox. It's fairly simple. You want to click once on an email message to select it. If you like to use your keyboard when you are looking at email messages, you would use the up and the down arrow keys on your keyboard to go up and down through an email message. If you want to open an email message, and when I say open a message, I mean look at it in its own Outlook window, you would just double click on the message and it opens in its own window. If you like using the keyboard, once a message is selected, you can press Enter to open it in its own window. Once you have finished reading an email message, you can select the Close button located in the upper right corner of the window, or you can just press the Escape key on your keyboard. Some quick navigation keyboard commands that you might like to use. If you quickly need to go to the very top of your inbox, maybe you just want to quickly see what your newest messages are, you'd press Control and then the Home key on your keyboard. And here I've just gone all the way to the top. You'd use the opposite command, Control and the End key on your keyboard, to go to the very bottom of your email list. There is my oldest email, which apparently is a voicemail message from October 2nd, 2012. So I've been holding on to that voicemail for quite some time. To get back to the emails that I was looking at more recently, though, I'm just going to press Control Home to go back to the top, and that'll put me in an area of the inbox that I'm a lot more familiar with. So again, navigating email messages is fairly easy. You can look for the message you want to read in the list of messages, click on it once to select it, double click on it to open it in a new window, or hit Enter. Use the up and the down arrow key if you want to go message by message using your keyboard. There's a little scroll bar here if you want to be able to see earlier messages. And then remember, Control and the Home key will take you to the top of the inbox. Control and the End key will take you to the end. The last thing that we are going to talk about in this particular video is the reading pane. The reading pane is one of the areas of the Outlook window. The reading pane is intended to quickly give you a preview of what's in an email message. So when I select a particular email message, the contents of the reading pane change to reflect what's in the email message that I've selected. So in this case, I have an upcoming appointment that I need to accept, and so I will make sure to accept that and get coverage for my teaching responsibilities. Here I can see that Chauncey, one of my colleagues, has accepted a meeting invitation that I sent her. So you may prefer to use the reading pane as your primary method of reading email messages. Some people do like to open messages either because they prefer being able to read it in its own window, because they want to be able to change the size of the window very quickly, because they find the ribbon less confusing, because in its own window you really only get 2 tabs to look at rather than the normal 6. There are a few reasons why you might want to do that. You can change the reading pane, and you can change it in a few ways. I like to keep my reading pane to the right of my message list because I find that that is the least confusing location for me. You can, however, change the reading pane so that it is underneath or at the bottom of the message list, or you can turn it off entirely. So to do that, you want to click on the View tab on the ribbon. Then you want to look at the layout category and look for the reading pane button. You're going to select it. There's a drop-down list that says right, bottom, or off. So if I choose bottom, now my reading pane is at the bottom of my messages. Still, I would select a message and it's going to populate in the reading pane. However, it will be at the bottom of the email and not to the right of the email. I can also choose to turn it off entirely, in which case I'm just able to first see a lot more email messages and then I get more details about each email message. So I don't get the reading pane preview, but I can still see who an email's from, what the subject was, what the size of it was, the very beginning of the message, and the date that I received it. But again, as I like it, I'm just going to leave the reading pane to the right. And then the last thing you can do is you can change the size of the reading pane. So if you want to make the reading pane wider or narrower, or if you have it at the bottom, taller or shorter, you just want to move your mouse to the edge between the reading pane and the message list. It will change shape from the traditional insertion point shape or the cursor shape to an arrow. There will be one arrow facing in each direction, and that lets you know that if you left click and drag, you can change the size of the window. So I can make my message list a lot wider, which again means I'm able to see more details about the messages, or I can make my message list a lot narrower, which means that the window for my reading pane is larger and perhaps easier to view. And so that's the reading pane. Remember again, it's intended to quickly give you a view of what is in a selected email message. You can always choose to double click or hit enter on a message to open it. And you can position the reading pane underneath a message list, to the right of the message list, or you can turn it off entirely. Thank you so much for joining me for this video, and I look forward to speaking to you again in our next session.